Usually when you think of a parade, you would think of something like Thanksgiving, considering today is Thanksgiving. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. You probably wouldn't think of something like a demon hybrid parade, particularly ones with very advanced robots, looking very realistic, extremely giant, as you see in this video here in France.
Invocation that is being narrated as if Lilith.
Première femme d'Adam, je n'ai peur de personne, ni d'Anès, ni de Satan, je suis Lilith.
It's very interesting they said Lilith, because if you look at these pseudepigraphical texts, they say that Adam's first wife was Lilith, and then after that, because she rebelled immediately, he put him in a sleep and pulled a rib out of his side to create Eve. Now, you don't see this in Scripture, but you do see it in some of the surrounding texts of the Scriptures, which, of course, a lot of Christians don't ever read because we're told they're bad, they're forbidden. You should never read these other texts, these apocryphal texts, these pseudepigraphical texts. Strangely, some of them talk about Lilith. Lilith being the first female that turned into a hybrid herself when she was created, and then Eve had to be created or taken out of Adam as his wife. Now, what's interesting is I saw this over on Shane Miller's channel. His video is going viral about this parade in France, which, interestingly, no one else saw. No one in the West really saw this parade at all. It was very much left out of the media. And even over on X, you couldn't really see much of any posts going viral about this. But this is really bizarre. They have straight up all the satanic symbols in it. And what was really curious is some of the deep, dark connections that I discovered, and it leads all back to a dream I had about almost 2 years ago now. And it ties in so bizarrely into that dream, into what I discovered in our true eschatology that has been hidden regarding the end times that we've been in for a far longer period of time than people realize. Some think that we're just getting into the end time. This is the end right now. We've been in it for a long, long, long time, actually. 1,500 years. 1,500 years. It sounds, what are you, crazy? Are you serious? You think that we've been in the end for 1,500 years? Yeah, actually. I'll show you, actually. And some of you don't want to turn this off, because once you hear this, you're going to be pretty shocked. You're going to be pretty shocked at what I have to show you. There was literally a pope with the name 66 and another 6. Literally. His name is Pope Sixtus III. I'm going to go through a bunch of stuff about him and connect it to this, actually, believe it or not, that this city, Paris, may actually be the seat, of course, of Satan right now. And why was that one chosen over the Vatican, his first seat, which he fell at the fall of Rome, which I'm going to show you that as well as we get into this video. The actual true eschatology, it's not Tim LaHaye's Left Behind, all right? Something that happened so long ago that no one really knows about it, even though it's recorded in history, in historical books that no one seems to know about. Actually, multiple books that are by primary historians. Flavius Josephus, Pliny, Tacitus. It's kind of strange, actually, how no one knows any of these things. So let's go over some of the stuff from this parade first, and then we'll get into all the weird stuff, the dark stuff that ties into it. Check this out. This is another clip about the first symbol they show.
So they open right away with the 2-ringed gate symbol. So this is connected to like portals or gateway imagery. Basically, it's like, the left circle could look like an entry point, and then you have the right circle, which would be like an exit point for the portal, which is like, the veil between two worlds. So this directly connects to Lilith's description of that you'll see later that.
So he's saying this is one portal entry and exit portal. It's kind of interesting. He goes on to talk about how, well, this one's pretty obvious and self-explanatory, I think. You got a 6 here, 1 here, and 1 here. Again, a lot of people think that we're right now just getting in the end. But what if it already happened 1,500 years ago, and we actually already had the 1,000-year millennial kingdom called the Middle Ages or medieval times, and then we were in the short time of the devil, the short season of the devil for 500 years, and we're actually coming to the end of that. So meaning we're actually at the end of Revelation, where we've already had the millennial kingdom, and now we had the short time of the devil basically deceiving the entire world, all the nations. That might explain why no one knows what's going on anywhere, and everything seems to be going to hell in a handbasket all the time. And then we're literally at the end when he comes back in like the final war, right? And then the judgment seat and the books are opened, all that will be next. Could we be in that time rather than the one before the millennial kingdom? And I could show you, I've covered this before on video, but I got a lot of new stuff. And I think I know now the seat of Satan, where his first seat was Rome. His second seat now is Paris. And I got some rather curious things to prove this. And I believe this parade is actually the thing that sort of led me to it. This weird parade of Minotaurs and Lilith and gates being opened. I didn't even know about this. This thing was hidden from all of us. Macron's French government funded a Nephilim demon-like hybrid, being event-tainted and satanic, and of course, other symbolism. Nobody in the U.S. even heard about it. Lilith and Baal, right in front of your face. Spiritual battle that's showing you exactly who they are. France paraded demon-like hybrids. Minotaur, Lilith, and of course, one of the most popular books right now is called Morning Glory Milking Farm, which is about, and this is pretty bad, but this is popular among the women. Not all women, of course, but certain women really can't. As a matter of fact, they even make these TikToks about how they will never give up this book. And they're really emphatic about it. It's about you getting, of course, off Minotaurs. No joke. That's literally what the book's about. Yeah, that's actually what I'm, just as you're thinking. Okay, just as you're thinking, okay? That's what, glory, of course, whole. That's why it says Glory Milking Farm. That's literally what the book's about. All right, so that's kind of weird, right? You got Minotaurs here. These are hybrid beings. This guy here, like I already talked about, this is where I showed these first clips from the channel Shane Miller. Go check him out. But like I said, we're going to get into a ton of stuff in this video. Let's just get into this more here. We got the rise of Lilith, recent parade in Toulouse, France, guardian of the temple, which included a giant Minotaur, representation of Lilith, hence feminist, control. Let's see here. Looks pretty elaborate. Pretty elaborate, as you can tell, right there. And you can see here the Minotaur as well. You got here another robot. And you got it meeting with Lilith there. Spider-like legs, horns, of course, no top. You can see here the Minotaur much larger. It takes a lot of people to run it. See, there's a lot of people running it. There's a guy up here. There's two in the front. I think there's one in the back there. It's multiple people running this thing. And have this parade down the road, right? And it's kind of interesting because we're clearly in a spiritual war. And this guy, I saw this clip. I was looking for more clips on this parade, kind of getting a little bit more information, doing a little bit of a deep dive. And I found this guy's video here on TikTok talking about him praying. And while he's in prayer, God kept telling him the same thing over and over and over, and eventually decided he's going to make a video about this. Check this out.
The world is coming from Paris, France. What's up? My name is Phoenix, and all darkness in the world is coming from Paris, France. What's up? My name is Phoenix, and I can see into the spirit realm. If you don't know me, God has given me the ability to be able to see into the spirit realm. I have this ability just like Ezekiel, Daniel, Elijah, and John all had in the Bible, as well as Amos. With this gifting, God shows me a lot of the things specifically concerning the entire world. And something that's been coming up for the past year is Paris. If you guys have followed me for a while, you've seen I've made a couple of videos of this touching on this subject before, but God has really been putting it on my heart that he really wants me to share this message specifically. I've prayed on this endlessly and have gotten so many confirmations from him that it would be very foolish of me and blatantly disobedient if I did not share this anymore. So pretty much God always shows me that for whatever reason, Paris is the head of the kingdom of darkness in this world at this time. Multiple times he's shown me visions of the entire world being covered by this dark evil cloud. And it's the same darkness and the same energy as Satan whenever I've seen him. He's like this massive black dragon. I've had so many dreams and visions of this giant black serpent, Satan, in Paris, underground somewhere. If you know, Paris is famous for its catacombs. In a lot of these dreams and visions, God shows me this stream or this beam of darkness just coming up from Paris and just spreading out to cover the entire world. And in all of these dreams, all this darkness is always spreading from Paris. He's shown me repeatedly that Paris is the head of Satan's kingdom of darkness here on this world. Don't know exactly.
You know why this? Let's hear what he has to say here.
Exactly why he wanted me to share.
He doesn't know exactly why. Okay. So check this out. I had a dream, actually I had a couple dreams about this 2 years ago. I was trying to, honestly, I wasn't trying to figure out anything. God just gave me these weird dreams. I was sort of looking into things, obviously with scripture, but I got these weird dreams and it gave me like 7 clues as to what was really going on in our world and what time we were really in. And it led me on this huge trail of doing research as I found out all these little breadcrumbs and what they really meant. And there was something that happened back in the Middle Ages where a woman was exalted and a man was condemned, both in a courtroom. And it was a papal courtroom. And I didn't know who it was referring to. And it said that the woman was also in movies today. Like you could go to a movie theater and see her on the big screen. And some people would say, well, was she hearing from God or from the devil? And so that was another aspect of my dream. So I'm like, who is this woman? Who is this woman that got exalted? That some said listen to the devil, some said listen to God. And who is this man that got condemned that was her friend? And then I saw in the dream also that the same demons were behind both people. And now I know who it was after doing research because God gave me a clue. Because I was like trying to figure out, I'm like, who could this be? I'm like, who is this, right? And he said, you know that date, 440 AD, where Pope Sixtus III lived? This is what God was telling me. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, add 1,000 years to that. I'm like, okay, 1440. So I typed in 1440, court case, Vatican, and it came up with Joan of Arc and Gilda Ray. Gilda Ray got condemned. He was friends with Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc got exalted. Joan of Arc, some people say was listening to demons. Some say it was listening to God. Who was she listening to? She lived in France. Okay. And what God showed me also in the dream is that this is when the devil got out of the bottomless pit, was in that time frame, 1440 AD. And his first act was through Gilda Ray and Joan of Arc. So his very first act, getting out of the bottomless pit, was to show Joan of Arc as a strong female warrior, taking the place of a man. A man is usually a warrior, not the female. So she took a man role as a female warrior. And then the man got destroyed. This man was also a warrior, but he got destroyed because he became this insane person who did a lot of very bad things. Very, 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 very bad things. He was one of the first serial, killers in about 1,000 years. The first one in 1,000 years, practically. And he did the most insane. I think he's probably the worst one that ever existed, actually. So if you look into the guy, and I don't want to say all the stuff he did, but it was really bad. Okay. This guy, Gilda Ray, he got condemned while she got exalted. They both lived in France. So the devil gets out of, so if you want, we'll get into this whole thing, but basically the devil's seat was Rome back around 440 AD through Pope Sixtus III. And I'll show you that as we get into this video. And then after he's in there for 1,000 years, he gets out, and where does he move his seat to? Paris, France. Okay, now if you go look at here, this shows you where Joan of Arc's church is. It's not that far from Paris. Okay? So I believe his first act, according to my dream, was through Joan of Arc and Gilda Ray when he got out of the pit, and it's near Paris. So it actually confirms what this guy's saying partially. It makes sense that the throat of the seat, well, the throat of the devil, I guess is a dragon, right? I don't know. The seat of the devil is in this area. Okay, and that actually makes sense, and that kind of relates to my whole entire dream as well. That he actually would be here instead of the Vatican. So the Vatican was his original seat. Okay? And I'll actually prove that out too. Because, so here's Joan of Arc. She was the first female exalted warrior. At first, she almost got condemned. Then she got exalted. Interestingly, at the exact same time, this is the first... During the time of Joan of Arc, we had Pope Sixtus IV come forth, and he made the Sistine Chapel. So there was no Pope Sixtus. There was a Pope Sixtus III, 440 AD, Pope Sixtus IV around 1440 AD. Okay, 1,000 years between the two Sixtus. The word Sixtus means six in Latin. Sixtus III means 6, 6, and another 6. It says it's a number of a man. The man's name, Pope Sixtus, is his original birth name. He's one of the very few popes who was given the same name when he became pope as he was born with. He was born with the name Sixtus. And he was given the name Sixtus III when he became pope. It's a number of a man. Or I got that pulled up around here somewhere. I had the verse pulled up somewhere around here. I don't know where I put it. I'm sure you know the verse. It's a number of a man, right? I think I got it around here somewhere. My goodness, I got so many windows open always. I always got a million windows open. Where did I put it? Is it this one? Yeah, here it is. It's like 5, 10 screens ahead. Revelation 13, 17, 18. So that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is the name of the beast, the number of his name. This calls the wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast. The number is of a man. Number of a man. That's his name. He was literally born with the name Sixtus. And he was given the name Sixtus III when he became pope, which literally means 6 3 times in Latin. And I'm going to show you a lot more on this as we get going, but I want to show you, I had a progression, and I'm kind of going off the progression here. So you have here Pope Sixtus III. And his early career in Rome, what he did, I'm going to show you how it ties into Revelation. Why is it you don't know about a pope with the name 666 and another 6? You'd think that'd be kind of important to know that, wouldn't you? You'd be like, well, maybe that's the guy. Maybe that was him. Well, you know why you don't know? You know why you don't know about this guy? Because he was friends with Augustine, St. Augustine, who's very popular amongst Catholics and Protestants. Not really helpful for those who like Augustine, is it? When you got a guy named 666 another 6 as Pope, not really that's not that helpful, is it? My doctrine comes from Augustine, but he was friends with a guy who has a weird name, and it kind of fits Revelation. Maybe that's a problem, right? So then nobody wants to talk about it. That's why you don't know about it. I believe it's something to this effect. Jesus established his kingdom the first 500 years. And then, of course, the devil took over at the end around 440 AD at the fall of the Roman Empire for a very short time. Jesus came back, defeated him. The millennial reign of Christ was the Middle Ages, medieval times. Around King Henry VIII is when the devil was let out of the bottomless pit. Joan of Arc, Gilda Ray, Satan's little season. We've been under that for 500 years. And now we're coming to the final end right now. And so this is kind of the idea. Now, a lot of people are not aware of it, and I don't even have it pulled up, but there was something weird that happened in 66 AD that no one seems to know about that directly fulfills a bunch of prophecies of Jesus. Why don't you know about this one? Well, because it doesn't fit the Tim LaHaye left behind, we're in the end times right now thing. That's why you never hear about it. Literally, something that happened in history. Secular historians even wrote about it. Secular historians And Christian historians are, well, I don't know if you consider Flavius Josephus a Christian historian, but here it is. I didn't have it pulled up. I'm going to pull it up now. These are all crazy to me. The fact that no one knows any of this stuff. Was Jesus seen in the clouds in 66 AD? It literally matches what Jesus said to a T. He said he would come back, and some of his followers would still be alive when he came back. Apostle John would still be alive, 66 AD. And it was recorded by multiple historians, but no one today knows about it. You can even go buy this book at a Christian bookstore and read about it, and still no one knows about it. Tell me how no one knows about something that's written in a book that's made by a professional historian that you can go read in a Christian bookstore. How is it no pastors know about this? Nobody knows about this at all. Even though it's right there, they even buy, a lot of these pastors buy this book. They buy Flavius Josephus' writings. They still don't know about this. They have no clue. It's written inside the book. You can read it for yourself. It's kind of just amazing, mind-boggling even. Okay, so you will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. He said this when he was on trial. And literally that's what occurred in 66 AD. First Jewish historian, Josephus describes a heavenly army in the clouds, much like the army Jesus leads in Revelation 19:11-14. This event was also recorded by other historians. The first century pagan historian Tacitus also mentions this event. In the sky appeared a vision of armies of conflict, of glittering armor. Pseudo-Hegesippus also describes the coming of Christ on the clouds with his mighty angels at the time when he writes, a certain figure appeared in tremendous size, which many saw, just as the book of the Jews have disclosed. And before the setting of the sun, there were suddenly seen in the clouds chariots in the clouds and armed in battle arrays, by which these cities, all of Judea and the territories, were of course invaded. Medieval Jewish historian Sefer Yosipion expounds upon the angelic army in the sky of AD 66. Moreover, in those days, there were seen chariots of fire and horsemen, a great force flying across the sky near the ground, coming, of course, against Jerusalem and all of Judea. Riders of fire. This parallels between the three accounts, Revelation 19, are striking. This will happen when the Lord Jesus is revealed from heaven in blazing fire with his powerful angels. That's from 2 Thessalonians 1:7. Literally, perfectly fulfilling what it says to a T. No one knows about this. Why does no one know about this? Good question. I don't know. You tell me. You got in Revelation also another statement that the dragon will come out of the sea. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads with 10 crowns and horns. On its horns and on each head a blasphemous name. Notice the beast came out of the sea. Pelagius, his name means of the sea. Yes, the name Pelagius means of the sea in Greek origin, derived from the word pelagos, which means sea. So Pelagius is Sixtus III was under believed similar to Pelagius originally. And then he got out of the sea and went to a different teaching. Yes, Pope Sixtus, who was a prominent priest and not yet pope at the time of the main controversy, was initially suspected of favoring Pelagianism, but later proved his orthodoxy and firmly condemned the heresy. So Pelagian controversy, I find this very interesting because I think Pelagian might have been actually misrepresented in his own writings, and they condemned him over technical misunderstanding. I'm not sure if that's 100% the case, but it seems to be the case potentially from what I can tell. So Sixtus originally came out of the sea, came out of Pelagius, and went into a teaching more like Augustine. Okay? So he became more like Augustine. Let's see, yeah, I did write about that. Let's see if it says it down here. As Pope, when Sixtus became Pope Sixtus III, he actively opposed Pelagianism. He frustrated the attempts, blah, blah, blah. Where does it say about Augustine here? Does it say anything? Yeah, here we go. St. Augustine later congratulated Sixtus on his clear stance, confirming his alignment with the Augustinian doctrine of grace. So this is very interesting because Augustine and Jerome were known to try to conflate something that was happening in the Middle Ages, right about the time, right at the beginning, and I'll get into that in a little while. But here's the point. I was saying Pope Sixtus' birth name was Sixtus. Funny that Google now admits it, because a couple months ago it wouldn't admit it. Now it does. So that's good. Finally learned. So I already showed you this passage. So I actually think that the seat of Satan probably is in Paris now, but it was originally in Rome back 1,500 years ago. Here is a video about Sixtus III. Allegedly, he said monasteries and harems were one and the same. I believe the source, because AI will say it's not true, but that's because it doesn't have all these sources. If you look at a lot of these AIs don't have access to all the information out there, so they can't really tell you what's what. So I believe it's from this book here, A Dark History, The Popes, where this person goes into some really ancient manuscripts and finds some really seedy details about some of these popes. And I think Sixtus III was the one. He was in a scandal where he was allegedly with a nun, and then he denied it. And apparently when he became pope, he was saying that he is now married to the bride of Christ, and he can do whatever he wants, of course, with the nuns. This is what was alleged in that book. I'm not saying I know for sure it's true or not. We don't know. It was literally 1,500 years ago. It's kind of hard to know. But you have a lot of books writing about this. A lot of these books you can't really access very easily because they're referencing a book that's maybe very hard to get to. Maybe it's in the Vatican Library or something, which, by the way, the Vatican Library was made by Pope Sixtus IV, right after the devil allegedly got out of the bottomless pit, assuming I'm correct. Interestingly also is if you look at how Sixtus would have spelled his name back in the time he lived, it literally means 6, and another 6, as you can see here on the screen. I find that interesting. So allegedly he was with a nun, and then also there was another bishop that was directly against him. So with this bishop going against him, strangely that guy died of poisoning. Also, in his first trial, and I don't want to play this whole video, but you can go check it out. It's on this channel called Saints and Sinners if you want to go check it out on YouTube. And here's the name of it. Do you want to go check it out? But basically he was bribing people. He was bribing other priests, giving them, access to things maybe they're not supposed to have access to or whatever. He's giving them food, giving them whatever they want. Also, apparently, those that were trying him to see if he was guilty or innocent, he was bribing them too, supposedly. This is I'm guessing it's from this book here, because he's got a lot of books referenced, but it sounds like it would probably be from this book here, based on the title. I could be wrong, though. But it seems like it would be a book like this in the set of books, and there's only a couple that have a name like this in the set. So it's probably that book right there. Maybe I'll go buy it and check it out. That'd be kind of interesting. Maybe I can go find it in the book itself and then show you guys on screen one day. At any rate, so what did Pope Sixtus do? He also consecrated the Basilica of St. Mary Major after it was rebuilt under his authority, a significant event following the Council of Ephesus in 431 AD, which was 1 year before he became Pope. Now, what happened at the Council of Ephesus? They declared Mary to be the Mother of God. Rather than the Mother of Jesus, they assigned her the name Mother of God. And interestingly, we have now, today, it's a new story. It came out like a day ago about the Pope himself, the new Pope, Pope Leo XIV, is going to call her the Co-Redemptrix. Mary Co-Redemptrix. I don't even know how to spell it. Let's see here. Redemptrix. Here we go. Now, yeah, here it is. I found it. What is this? This came up 6 hours ago. Okay, here we go. Let's just check it out because this is related. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because he dedicates a basilica to Mary, Mother of God, and my concern is maybe that's not that phrase, that title can lead you to sin. I think They may say, oh, what are you talking about? How could that lead you to sin? Well, I think it could, because what if you're literally saying she is a God herself? She's the mother of God. She has to be a God if she's the mother of God. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you can look at it two different ways, is my point. You can look at it one way, which would be the accurate way, where she's just literally the mother of Jesus, or you can look at it as like she's literally above God or equal to God, which of course is interesting because they were wanting to call her co-redemptrix. In response to questions, Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez explained that the Vatican's recent doctrinal note restricts co-redemptrix from liturgy and official documents to avoid any confusion about Christ's role in mediation. As scripture like Acts 4:12, the title used by popes like Pius XI in 1925 and John Paul early on traces to the 15th century origin. 15th century, interesting. That's the time when the devil got out of the bottomless pit, and highlights Mary's cooperation at the cross. Yet private devotion stays fully open if understood rightly. So it looks like, if I'm understanding this correctly, is off limit. This is interesting. So maybe Pope Leo is doing the right thing by at least saying it's off limits. Cardinal Fernandez clarifies co-redemptrix off limits in official Vatican documents and liturgical texts, permitted in private devotion. So this is my point. So she is not a redemptrix. She is the mother through physical birth. She obviously was a saint. She's obviously a very high up saint, but that doesn't make her a equal to Jesus or anything of that nature, and she has no redemptrix in her. But the thing is who started all this? Pope Sixtus III, Mother of God. So my whole point is that I think this is one of the errors the devil brought in as well, is to try to elevate Mary too highly, more than she should have been elevated, obviously. Was St. Augustine's friends with Sixtus? Yes, St. Augustine of Hippo corresponded with St. Sixtus III, who became Pope in 432 AD. While not close personal friend and the same as other figures, Augustine's correspondence with Sixtus highlights their intellectual and theological relationship. Sixtus III was a contemporary of Augustine and a pope, and as pope approved the results of the Council of Ephesus, while also actively protesting against heresies like Nestorianism and Pelagianism. Correspondence to Pope Sixtus III, St. Augustine frequently corresponded to each other. Now, with regards to Pelagianism, the issue was, it reminds me, okay, so it's kind of like this, yin yang. You've seen that where you have like a lot of black and a little white dot, a lot of white and a little black dot. Pelagian was kind of like the white with a little black dot. He had a lot of good doctrine about free will, and he had one little error which caused this heresy, or at least a misunderstanding of what he was saying. One of the two, maybe it was a heresy, maybe it was a misunderstanding, I don't know. But a lot of what he was teaching was good, but he had this little dot error, okay, that caused a massive controversy. With regards to St. Augustine, it's a lot of black and one light white dot. He's got a lot of terrible doctrine as far as I'm concerned, very much Manichaean, Gnostic-based ideas, and I'm going to show you that in a second here. While he might have had some other things accurate and correct that kept him so he wasn't a heretic, he had tons of bad doctrine otherwise. So it's like the yin-yang in my mind is kind of how I look at it. Pelagius accused Augustine of adopting Manichaean Gnosticism. Yes, Pelagius accused Augustine of adopting Manichaean-like views. Yes, he did, indeed, 100%. And this is what brought our church into a bad position. Why? Apostle John, when he said, "He that denies Christ came in the flesh is an Antichrist," he's referring to Gnosticism, because the Gnostics refused to believe that Jesus came in the flesh, because they believed the flesh was evil and the spirit was good. They separated the two. Flesh is evil, spirit is good. All flesh is evil, all spirit is good. This is how they looked at it, the Gnostics, in a sort of a very simplistic way of saying it, but that's basically what they taught. But this is not accurate. This is not accurate at all, because God created the physical and the spiritual. The physical isn't evil. That's why Jesus came in the flesh. Manichaean Gnostics were a form of Gnostic sects under Mani. He had writings. You can go look them up. Augustine was a Manichaean Gnostic before he became a Christian. Why did Augustine teach that eternal torment was physical torture in hell forever because the physical is evil. If you go read his writings, he talks about you need to be physically punished in hell because he believed the physical was evil. He got these ideas from Manichaean Gnosticism. His ideas on free will, Gnosticism. The early Christians fought against the Gnostics. The Gnostics were teaching there was no free will. A lot of teaching today is anti-free will. Total depravity, double predestination is not actually what the early church taught, and is an error from Augustine, which I believe also Sixtus III believed in. When he came out of the sea, the beast came out of the sea. Okay, this is what I think is actually the case of what's going on here. So, a lot of the teaching you see in the Protestant church, particularly Calvinistic, is not actually accurate. This idea of total depravity means you can't do anything right because you have no free will to do anything right. You're totally depraved. Double predestination. You have no option or choice in the matter of becoming a Christian. And there are likewise other people who are condemned to hell, whether or not they believed ever. They'll never believe in Jesus, and they have no option because Jesus won't come to them. Is their logic. Taking free will out of the entire equation, when in reality, you have the right to choose whether or not you're going to follow Christ or not. It's not like he chooses you and you have no say in the matter. This is where people get it wrong in this thinking. This is anti-free will. And that was what this was all about. Pelagius was saying that you have free will. Augustine was saying you don't. Calvin went after Augustine and believed similar things to Augustine. And actually, I would say the worst version of this is hyper-Calvinism, which is basically Manichaean Gnosticism in Christianity. Now, if you look at the early times of Augustine and Jerome, you'll see that they didn't believe in the millennial reign coming. So back in the time of Augustine and Jerome, which is around 390, 400s, all the church was thinking the end was coming. They were all thinking it was coming right now, that there was going to be a millennial kingdom, and we're going to have joy and peace and all that stuff. And these guys rejected it. Augustine and Jerome rejected it. Let me show you that. Jerome and Augustine, perceiving the danger of apocalyptic millennialism, developed a new and more stringent ways to oppose it. This is from the Encyclopedia Britannica, by the way. Jerome introduced a new set of calculations, AM2, that placed the incarnation roughly 300 years earlier. In other words, he lied when Jesus was born. He lied about when Jesus was born just to get people to stop believing something. So what's going on here is they had a calendar called AM1. You can't find AM1 calendar anymore. If you go look online, you won't find it. It's very hard to find. Let me show you. If I type in AM calendar, what will Google give me? It will give me the AM3 calendar. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, this number here is inaccurate. This is the AM3 calendar, not the AM1 calendar, not the original calendar. The calendar that Flavius Josephus used was the AM1 calendar. The AM1 calendar, you can't, I don't even know if it'll, let me see if it will even give it to me. AM1 calendar. Can you give it to me or are you going to lie? It's a lie. That's a lie. It's not AM1 calendar. Let me put in AM3. Let's see if it knows even what I'm talking about. That's because you're ignorant, Google AI. You don't even know what you're talking about. Let me show you how you don't know what you're talking about. Here's the Encyclopedia Britannica. AM2 was the Jerome set of calculations putting the incarnation 300 years earlier. Latin chronographers to ignore the advent of 6000 AM1, meaning the fall of Rome was 6000 AM1. And what time is AM1 allegedly today? Oh, we're not even to 6000 yet. Yet they were to 6000 at the fall of the Roman Empire. 6000 AM1. Jerome lived in 59 AM1, which means let's just add that up. I mean, what time frame would that put us in? So let's say 440 AD is 6000 AM1. So 6,000 minus 440 plus, we got to add in 2025, right? That's the year we're in. Okay, so we're in the year 7,585 according to the AM1 calendar. 7,585. We are And if you look at these apocryphal texts, which I can show you that as well, I mean, I can prove this like 100 different ways, actually, by the way. That's what's so amazing about all this stuff. I'm literally going to prove it to you a million ways. Did I pull it up? Yeah, here we are. So this article was written by, I should tell you the name of the guy. Oh, wait, no, this is the wrong one. That's not it. Where did it go? Like usual, too many windows open. All right, so Noel Hadley, he has a channel here on YouTube. I think it's called Unexpected Cosmology. Go check him out on YouTube. He wrote this article some time ago. He's also a researcher like me. He looks into all these apocryphal texts, pseudebiographical texts, figures everything out. Apparently, there's a number of apocryphal and pseudebiographical texts that tell you what time frame we're in, when Jesus was born, everything. And, of course, God rested on the seventh day. 1 day is 1,000 years. 6 days is 6,000 years. The seventh day would be 6,000 a.m. to 7,000 a.m., right? The fall of Rome was 6,000 a.m. according to the original time calendar. Now, let me show you, it actually predicts this all throughout the apocryphal texts. And, okay, he's got a lot of, let me get to it. I got too many, I had to go down a little bit. Here we are. I've actually went through this book recently. First Adam and Eve. But only when 5,500 years are fulfilled, at that time I will give you the fruit of the tree of life. You will eat and live forever, you and Eve and your righteous descendants. Okay. Second Adam and Eve. At the end of a great 5.5 days, concerning which I've made a promise to thee and thy father, I will send my word, the Logos, and save thee and thy seed. Second Adam and Eve, 12:6-7. That's 5,500 years. The book of Adam. When 5,000 years it will be completed, then at the 5,500th year, the beloved Son of the Messiah will come upon the earth, resurrect Adam's body from his fall because of the transgression of his commands. He will come and be baptized in the river Jordan. This is literally telling you where he'll be baptized, what year he'll come, everything. 5,500th year, 5,500 AM. So let's go back to the Encyclopedia Britannica. We're at 5,900 AM with Jerome. That's about 400 AD. You subtract 400 years, you get 0 AD. Was that when Jesus came? Did Jesus come at 0 AD? Yeah, I think he did come at 0 AD. It's literally accurate, perfectly accurate, and shows you the correct timeline, is what the Encyclopedia Britannica says, not what current day ignorant, of course, AIs are saying, because they don't know any of this for some reason, because someone don't want them to know this. Yeah, so basically, we are now in 7,585 AM1, which would mean we are 585 years after the Millennial Kingdom. Literally. The Millennial Kingdom would have been the Middle Ages. They're telling you, though, that we haven't even arrived there yet. You see that? This fits the whole Tim LaHaye Left Behind thing. Why would they do that? Well, who came up with those ideas of Tim LaHaye and Left Behind? This was actually another deep dive I did recently. I actually looked into it in great detail. Apparently, it was a man named Samuel Untermeyer who bankrolled, of course, the Scofield, Bible. Wes Huff recently came out against people talking about the Scofield Bible, and he was saying it wasn't funded by the Roth, child family, which he's correct. It wasn't funded by them, but actually it was funded instead, and he apparently doesn't know this, by a lawyer businessman of the same mindset, who also bailed out one of our presidents, by the way. He bailed out Woodrow Wilson, who was in a scandalous affair, by giving him $40,000 to pay a woman off. Does that sound familiar? Our president recently was in one with a corn star, right? Apparently all these presidents get in these weird scandals with women. I don't know. It's kind of weird. He needed 40K. He didn't have it back then. 40K is a lot more than today. It's probably like 4 million back then. I don't know. It's a lot more than what it is today. But yeah. So I put this out earlier this month, 20 days ago. Yeah, it's interesting when you start really doing deep dives into this, you start figuring a lot of stuff out. Here's an example of what I was talking about. If you go with the AM1, the original calendar, you'll see it in the Greek Septuagint, the Sumerian Pentateuch, Flavius Josephus, but the Hebrew Masoretic was modified by the Masoretes, And there's a reason why they did this, because they wanted to change the date when Melchizedek was the priest, because they wanted to make Jesus look like he wasn't what he claimed to be. And it comes back to this whole thing with the chronology. Here's the accurate chronology. It looks normal. As you can see there, it looks like a triangle. You go to the one that they tell you is the accurate one today, and let me show you what it looks like. It looks like this. Look, Melchizedek lived all the way to the time of Abraham, because they took out hundreds of years in here, so it doesn't look accurate. That's what happened. They were purposely modifying the numbers. And by the way, a lot of these atheist arguments that talk about errors in the Bible, most of the errors are numbers, and it comes right back to the Masoretic version, which was a modified version because they didn't believe Jesus was, the Messiah. That's why they modified it. They literally modified the text. They erased stuff. When it's supposed to look like this is what the Septuagint has. And actually the Septuagint's based on an older, more ancient Hebrew manuscript. At any rate, so then you got this. If you look at the fall of Rome, Theophilus of Antioch, one of my favorite theologians from around, I think, 180 AD, he talks about the 6,000 year prediction, about the millennial kingdom coming. He goes through and shows how the little horn was the Pope, and how he got his power from 3 Germanic tribes. Let me see if I can find that real quick here and here. The fall of Rome produces a little horn speaking arrogantly. While I considered the horn, suddenly another horn, a little one, came up among them. 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it, had a mouth that spoke arrogantly, Daniel 7:8. This comes back to the 3 Germanic tribes giving power to the Pope. They literally conquer Rome. 3 different Germanic tribes conquer Rome over a space of like 50 years. And for some reason, all 3 of them give their power all to one man, the Pope. Does that make sense? This is what happened, though. Okay, let me show you this. Thus, once Rome fell, the Antichrist would rise up. He would be a little horn that uprooted. And this is, by the way, the time of Pope Sixtus III, by the way. Because these tribes had sacked Rome, were converted to Christianity, they made themselves subject to the Bishop of Rome. The Bishop of Rome was probably not an official pope, but he did carry great authority throughout the Western Empire, especially in the Germanic tribes. At AD 410, Rome was sacked by Alaric, king of the Visigoths. AD 4055, it was sacked again by the Vandals. Finally, Odoacer, leading a tribe of Germanic peoples originally loyal to the emperor, killed the emperor's father, disposed the emperor, and sealed the fall of Rome in 476 AD. And Pope Sixtus III was literally in the middle of that, 440. The Goth king Alaric, on the entering Rome, expressly ordered that the churches of the apostles Peter and Paul should be spared as inviolable sanctuaries. Odoacer, who put on an end to the Western Roman Empire in 476, was incited to do expedition into Italy by Saint Severin and showed great regard to the Catholic bishops. Same is true of the conqueror and successor Theodoric of Ostrogoth. The conquered gave laws to the conquerors. Christianity triumphed over both. So this is how that happened with the fall of Rome. This led to the Pope having full power in Rome, and I believe that's when the devil corrupted the Pope at that time, and that's when the Antichrist came. Matter of fact, there's even a guy out here on YouTube I used to argue with named Armored Skeptic who had looked into a lot of ancient texts surrounding this Pope Sixtus III, and he mentioned one of them said that he had required a mark to buy and, of course, sell, which is literally what Revelation says. I'm curious what book he found that in. I would have to ask him. His name's Armored Skeptic here on YouTube. But that's really interesting, considering his name, the number of his name, and it matching perfectly with everything else in Revelation. Him also having requiring a mark, to buy and sell. That's kind of weird, right? So here's Sixtus IV. He's the one who created the Vatican Library. This is why we can't access, of course, the rest of history. We're given a curated, probably controlled history of the ancient past. We can't even access the Vatican Library, which has probably a lot of stuff in it that may contradict what they usually tell us. Maybe that's why they put it there. No one ever thinks about that. Well, there's probably a lot of people that think about that, but you know what I mean. So he also made the Sistine Chapel. And the Vatican Library is around the time that I believe the devil came out of the bottomless pit. It's actually about 20 years later. You got here Pope Sixtus IV, construction of the Sistine Chapel, and all this. All right. let's see here. I wanted to throw something up real quick. Got too many windows open like usual. Let me close one of these. At any rate, so I think you get kind of the idea. If you want, go check out my game. We're making a game called Noah VR. You can get involved, even invest in the game, $400. If you're interested to get a seat on the shareholders, there's only 700 shareholders total. 33% of Noah VR profits go to all those that invest when we release the game. Go check it out. Link is in the description. I kind of wonder what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.